When I look back at all those wars right now in Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Palestine, and I say, why? Why we have all this? I haven't over my trauma, and then 5 decades now, and this has happened to these people. The bombing is just traumatic. It took me back there, and how I was gonna erase my life. I keep thinking, because after what happened in the war in Cambodia, I don't want to deal with politics because my family was gone and I have this suffering and I don't want to know who's who run what. I don't care.
Welcome to the Provider Pulse interview series, part of the EthnoMed podcast at Harborview Medical Center, where we share stories at the intersection of health, culture, and care. My name is Dr. Duncan Reed, a primary care provider in Harborview's International Medicine Clinic and medical director of EthnoMed. Today's episode features Jeniffer Huong, one of the original Cultural Care Mediators in Harborview's Community House Calls program, founded in 1994. For more than 30 years, this program has built bridges between healthcare providers and immigrant and refugee communities. What began with a handful of mediators has grown to 13 cultural care mediators serving patients across Harborview in 8 different languages. Before her decades of service in Seattle, Jeniffer was a young girl in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, whose life was transformed by war, survival, and rebuilding. Her journey takes us from a strict academic childhood in Phnom Penh through the Cambodian Civil War and the Khmer Rouge, the forced labor camps where she lost most of her family, the refugee camps of Thailand and the Philippines, and finally to a life of service in healthcare serving the Cambodian community. As a warning, this episode references acts of violence, death, and genocide, which were part of the rule of the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. Although the discussions are not overly explicit, we recommend that younger or sensitive listeners consider skipping this episode and listen to another EthnoMed podcast episode instead. Part 1. Childhood in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Jeniffer Huong was born in 1963 in Cambodia. She was sent to Phnom Penh by her mother to be raised by her aunt and uncle, an aspiring physician and his wife. She grew up surrounded by books, discipline, and expectation.
My name is Jeniffer Huong, and I was born in Cambodia. I was there during the Khmer Rouge period. I lived through those 4 years of the Khmer Rouge regime before I came to the United States. My biological father was Chinese from mainland China, barely spoke Cambodian. My mother is a Chinese Cambodian. I was born in the middle between 12 children. My mom had 3 miscarried, 9 alive births. But I wasn't with my mom or my sibling because by 8 months old, I was given to her younger sister because her younger sister married and started a life in Phnom Penh, capital of Cambodia, because he is going to enter medical school and start working in a hospital. My mom owned the apartment in Phnom Penh, so I pretty much grew up and raised in the city, going to school and live with my legal parents, my aunt and uncle.
Were you the only one, or did some of your siblings join your aunt and uncle?
No, I'm the only one and the only child. At that time, my aunt did not have any children.
Do you know why you were selected?
I heard that I was sick a lot. And then in Chinese culture, the superstitious belief, they say when I was not good with my biological mother, it is good to give to other family member to raise it. And then since my aunt's husband is a doctor, they think I will be well off with them. So I got to go to school, and I was the only child living with many adults. My father was about to get a more formal doctor license. He had everything already set to go to Canada, but 4 months before that, the Khmer Rouge came. So those dreams wasn't happening. I don't have very much memory from my childhood because my aunt and uncle were very strict. Expectation I will be like number 1 in school, and there's a lot of manner and things that I had to do. I grew up with many adults like aunt and uncle that came to study in the city. So pretty much, I don't have a childhood. When every time I go play outside, if someone reported me and I got scolded by my aunt, and she's pretty mean. Because I grew up with so many adults, I was able to read by age 5. I read Cambodian magazine, newspaper, novel, every kind of book because everybody was studying. And when I was with them, they study, they're busy, so I better read something and do something. So I could read everything before entering elementary school. And I started with French private school.
So you grew up as an adult?
Pretty much as an adult. Yeah. The uncle that raised me, he came from a not very poor family, but at the time, going to higher education is very hard. And his father didn't have anything. So he started with Buddhist literature and everything in French, academically, medically. It's all communicated in French. And the expectation is very high, very strict.
So you're always surrounded by older people, whether it was at home
yeah,
or in school.
Or in school or in public.
So that's the setting, working really hard. And it sounded like your adoptive father and mother, big plans to go to Canada. Mm-hmm. Everything's all set. And then what are your memories about what happened with the Khmer Rouge? Part 2, Historical Interlude, Cambodia in Context. Here is a brief historical context for the Cambodia in which Jeniffer was living. After nearly a century of French colonial rule, Cambodia gained independence in 1953 under King Norodom Sihanouk. For a time, he remained neutral amid the wars in neighboring Vietnam and Laos. But by the 1960s, the conflict in Vietnam spilled across Cambodia's borders. U.S. bombing campaigns against North Vietnamese supply lines devastated rural provinces and displaced thousands. In 1970, General Lon Nol led a U.S.-backed coup overthrowing Sihanouk and declaring the Khmer Republic. The coup deepened instability and civil war, pitting Lon Nol's forces against a communist insurgency known as the Khmer Rouge, led by Pol Pot. By April 1975, the Khmer Rouge captured Phnom Penh. They abolished money, schools, and religion, declaring the creation of democratic Kampuchea. The Khmer Rouge targeted anyone they perceived as a threat to their utopian vision of an agrarian, classless society, leading to the Cambodian genocide from 1975 to 1979. Ethnic and religious minorities were targeted, including ethnic Chinese, Vietnamese, and Buddhist monks, as well as urban residents, professionals, teachers, and students who were forced into the countryside for re-education through hard labor and communal farms, where families were separated. Between 1.7 and 2 million Cambodians died from starvation, disease, or execution, which accounted for roughly a quarter of the population. The Vietnamese invasion ended the regime in 1979. It was into this upheaval that Jeniffer Huong, then a young girl, was thrust.
The Khmer Rouge changed the whole thing completely upside down. I remember April 17, 1975. So the apartment is in the middle of Phnom Penh, and across the street is finance, and across on the other side is a big apartment, and each story like a lot of celebrity living is the movie star, and next door is a bakery, a butcher shop, and behind my building is a French villa.
So you're really living in a very exclusive...
It is, in the very wealthy community. The evening of 1975, April 17, when the Khmer knocked on the door and told us, you have to leave in 5-10 minutes. If you don't leave, we can blow up something. It's pretty severely. But actually, we know this gonna coming because my biological mother, she's business-oriented and she knows the country be collapsing one day. She already prepared. My mother know a lot of business people in Thailand, and then we are gonna live in Thailand. She's already in Vietnam, in Saigon, but she didn't stay there. I wish she would stay there, and she came to Phnom Penh, cross Mekong River, with all my siblings staying with us in Phnom Penh. So we lived together. And the Khmer Rouge, when they forced us out, that evening I remember how many millions of people in Phnom Penh left from many directions. And from that day till now, whoever you lost, you never find it. And they only told us, you only left your house for 3 days. All you can take is just a couple pieces of clothes and belonging, and you will return. But we never returned. 40, 50 years now, right? We never returned.
So do you remember that day where they knocked on the doors?
Oh, yeah. Just collected all the belonging. But a few months before that, a lot of bombing. And we had the little basement that to go high and put the sand outside. And then I go to school, and one time the bomb was in front of the school. And then we were hiding under the ground over there. It's like what happened in Gaza when I look back. It's pretty scary. And that's why I know when I startle and then I have anxiety when I'm driving, when I hear this ambulance noise. And I think all those impacted me, which is I learned little by little to recognize, how psychologically impacted I was with this war, with the fighting.
Part 3, Khmer Rouge and fleeing Phnom Penh. The Khmer Rouge emptied the capital, sending millions on foot into the countryside. The next 4 years were spent under harsh Khmer Rouge rule. Urban evacuees were considered new people and wandered the countryside before being relocated to collective farms in rural Cambodia. The period coincided with mass killings and famine. Between 1.7 and 2 million Cambodians died between 1975 and 1979. Then when the Khmer Rouge came, you said you remember everyone streaming out on the roads. Everyone's walking?
Walking night and day for a month or two. So at that time with my aunt, uncle, his father, his sister, me, and then my biological mom, father, and my 5 siblings. So 15? We walked day and night. They just told you, keep walking. You know what? I didn't have my clothes with me. I have a bag on my book, which I don't need, but I had to get food, and then a lot of people have money, but no market. We cannot use money. But my mother, because she's business-oriented, she's exchanged everything into gold, and she has a piece of gold or hidden, and everybody have a piece of it, and because we can use that later and whatever to survive. That's what we survive. Exchange for rice, where like a cup of rice like this is maybe a little piece of gold. Yeah, that is a traumatic experience. So we all get to this town. It's called Kampong Speu, and it's pretty dry, no water, no nothing.
Urban dwellers were now reduced to foraging for food and were unfamiliar with the local vegetation. Jeniffer notes that she had never seen rice plants before and confused them for lemongrass.
And a lot of the Chinese people that walk along, they don't know those vegetables are eatable or not eatable. And some of them, they eat it and they were poisoned by it. And a lot of them die. We knew some of it, but I couldn't tell. I don't know the rice tree. I thought that's a lemongrass. I know lemongrass because in the city, they bought it and they know. But I never in the rice field. I couldn't. And I say, why there's a lot of lemongrass in there? But it's a rice field. So this thing is between city life to a country life to a traumatic experience.
Without food and facing starvation, Jeniffer's family made the decision to board a Khmer Rouge truck leading to the work camps, where they would be further separated from one another.
Living in Phnom Penh, we went to stay in Kampong Speu and another province. But in 3 months, people are dying with starvation. And then my parents, we talk at night, because every night there's a big truck take people out. We don't know where they take it. So we have a meeting and we decided that we cannot live here because we're going to die without food no matter what. We have no food to eat. And with the thing that we can exchange, it's not enough food for all of us to survive. We decide wherever they took us, we're going to go. So we all left. And one night they told us, now it's time to go. They called. We climbed on the truck. It was a big truck and 200-300 people in there sitting in it. The next morning we get up. We in this town, a province called Cambodia. One of the provinces have a lot of Chinese born there. They call Hokkien, and they are fluently Chinese, but they are first, second generation Cambodian Chinese. So they put us in one of the temple, all these refugees, the new arrival. But many of the people who live in the village, they continue to live like a normal. So they have more privileges than us. And from there, in that city, people are rich. So they have a lot of food. And we were starving for many months. So my mom exchanged it for rice. The first time we have real rice and soy sauce. You can imagine. I feel so bad. My father, because he's Chinese man, he eat very well and cook very well. And he had to sacrifice and give it to the kid. I have a baby brother. He's about 4 years old. And sitting, eating the first time a full meal with rice and chicken, and my father cooked very well. I ate it like a blessing. But you have no idea where we go next. We haven't get to the full destination yet. So from there, they say we're going to go like 100 kilometers into the rural area. Keep going, keep going. The last destination is like mountain and forest. They told us to go cut wood, build a house, whatever. And that's what we started up there.
Part 4. Children's Labor Camp. In the countryside, Jeniffer was separated from her family and sent to a children's work camp.
And then they start to separate us. A group of men go with workmen, a group of women go to a group of women. The 16, 17, older boy and girl, they all have a group too. So they separate them, so you live like that. And then I was young, under 16, but I was very educated. So they almost put me with a group of adults to work. So I ended up with a group of children. From there on, I don't live with my parents.
Jeniffer describes her work in the Khmer Rouge work camps, digging canals, carrying dirt up the mountain and back all day. In the planting season, she was in the water every day, planting rice, pulling weeds. There was work to do year-round. In the summer, she recalls fertilizing the soil with buffalo droppings. She was severely malnourished and surrounded by death and disease.
And the next thing to know, this one died, this one never returned, this one died, this one never returned, until the Vietnamese took over. Only 5 of us left. My uncle that raised me, I think he died in the field because we remember that he's diabetic. And then my mother, she died a year before the Vietnamese took over, 1978.
Part 5. Escaping the Khmer Rouge. After the Vietnamese invasion against the Khmer Rouge in 1978, the Khmer Rouge were on the run. However, Jeniffer was unsure whether to trust the encroaching Vietnamese military or her Khmer Rouge captors. She stayed with the Khmer Rouge for a time before eventually escaping. Phnom Penh was captured by the Vietnamese military in 1979.
And then when the Vietnamese came in, we ran again. The Khmer Rouge told us that if we stay with the Vietnamese, we will kill. So we don't know, so we scared. We just stay with them. So I was with my aunt, my mother's sister, my mother's sister-in-law, and my other auntie and her son. Just 5 of us left. Oh my God. I ran again after the Vietnamese came because we just stayed with the Khmer Rouge until the end. I ran from one mountain to the next mountain to the next mountain. We were stuck. So 1979, January 7, independent from Khmer Rouge. A lot of people are already in the city. I still on the mountain. 5 months later, because they run between Khmer Rouge and Vietnamese, so they drop everything and no water and it's dark and you cannot see the sun or the light. Could you imagine? And then there are people left their parents that cannot bring them up. And then 7 days and 7 nights, no water up there. What do people drink? They cut the tree or they go to wherever the hole and drink the rainwater. I'm surviving with all those stuff. Yeah. I don't know how. That's why I say, life is so precious. The fear. And then what? How many months on that mountain? People give birth up there. I don't know how, but... And then from that mountain, we crossed to another jungle at the border of Cambodia and Thailand. And then we had to hide in the canal where the water running. And then we don't have any food. We only have salt. And the rice, we had to get the one that's not pounded, not become a rice yet. You have to pound it and then peel it, And then one day I remember with my aunt, we go to the well to get some water to cook the rice. And then they say, oh, the bomb. And we run again. So I drop everything and run. And she holding my hand. And the next thing is the Khmer Rouge say we can go anywhere we want. That's where we decided to walk out. And then we walking out 1 week from the mountain out to the village and get back to the province, the city.
Jeniffer and her family members escaped from the forest, but decided not to move to Phnom Penh due to the danger of attack there from any remaining Khmer Rouge.
So we need a ride. But then they decided not to go to her hometown because right after that, the Khmer Rouge will look for you and do something again. So they decided to go to another province that next to the border of Thailand. Maybe we can escape to refugee camp. So we go to Kampong Thom. And there, a lot of the military buses and trucks. So to get that ride, we have to give them some money. So we end up in Kampong Thom. I like that province. They have like city and little market and stuff, and then the river, so people get fish. And I lived there for a while until my aunt, she says she's gonna go to Phnom Penh first to looking for other relatives who we can find. I stay at home with my aunt and we sell stuff in the market, waiting for my mom come back from Phnom Penh. Next, she found her younger sister with my 4 siblings in Phnom Penh. She thinks they killed her husband already. At that time, my older brother, he already gone. First time he got sent to the field. Yeah, he's a tough one too. I know that Khmer Rouge won't leave him. Never know what happened to him, how he was killed or whatever.
Jeniffer recounts later learning the fate of her father and her younger brother.
My father and my little brother, he was very sick and he told my little brother, keep going, and he cannot make it anymore. So we don't know he passed away, and then my brother with him, or my brother go with another. Never know what happened, we don't know.
Some of Jeniffer's surviving family members were found by her aunt in Phnom Penh, and they made a plan to go to the refugee camps in Thailand. Jeniffer was informed that some of her other relatives had already made it to the Thai refugee camps, and that she should meet up with 2 boys who were family friends to help cross the border. From Phnom Penh, she took a train to Battambang, then a bus, then a bicycle with the 2 boys. The Thai-Cambodian border was guarded by Thai authorities who were concerned about an influx of Cambodian refugees across the border.
So I came to the refugee camp by myself with 2 boys around my ages. One of them is my cousin's brother-in-law, and one of them his adopted son. He found him after Khmer Rouge, and he don't have family, so he adopted him. He's like my cousin. So I came with 2 of them on bicycle. They meet me at the Phnom Penh, get on a train to Battambang. I only have a backpack or clothes. I don't even know what I get in there. Some money, nothing, pretty much clothes. I wasn't sure what is my destination is. So we get to Spices, the point we stay with my cousin. The next things we go into the camp. I was on the bicycle with him and across the camp, the border.
Part 6. Thai refugee camps. Across the border in Thailand, she reached the refugee camps, finally settling into the Khao I Dang refugee camp, a sprawling settlement of over 100,000 people. What do you remember about when you first went into the camp?
Oh, that was so scary, huh? I mean, imagine I was in my adolescent, 14, 15, maybe 16, and I only have like a couple pair of clothes. We cannot bring anything. And I was sitting in the back on one of the bike of the boy. From there, we go into the refugee camp in the Thailand-Cambodian border. It's called Nong Chan. That is the first camp. The Thai soldier, Vietnamese soldier, Cambodian independent freedom, so different political at that border. And soldier military along the camp, and they're still fighting. And then the people who running in there, the people who escape like me, the people who do smuggling from Thailand into the camp, from the camp into Thailand to Cambodia, back and forth to sell. And then you have robbery, and it's like a danger zone. They still fighting, bombing, shooting. I go through that. And then every check station, if you pass, your life is safe. But in between there, you don't know, you will be hit by the bullet, or you got raped, or you got stopped and then questioned, and then interrogated and then put you in the bag wherever, not let you go. And then as a woman, as a young girl, so a lot of women come through this. How can we protect from rape? It's such a nightmare. It's such a nightmare that I cannot sleep in peace or walking in peace anywhere. Look at all this violence that I went through. I could be raped. I could be paralyzed, one shot of gun,
Jeniffer reunites with family in the Cao Dong refugee camp. She learned that her uncle, who works as an engineer, had agreed to sponsor her relocation, as well as that of the rest of her family.
We end up in Cao Dong. We had medicine, we had food, and then we had people supply us money from abroad. It's more dangerous when you get to the Thailand camp. When in Cao Dong, under the Thai NGO, the UN was there, but the doctor and the foreigner that work, they only in the daytime. At night, they go back to Bangkok. And the Thai soldier will take control over the camp. They can go into rape or to do anything. People are sneaking in and sneaking out in the camp, and the Thai soldiers shoot at them. And that's how they get paralyzed, broken leg, killed, the next day on the outside of the fence, It's like a jail because a cottage and the wire fence around it, but they patrol every corner of it. So people get out to get the good from Thailand to bring it back into the camp to sell. It's like people still make a living, and the people at the border are make a living, and the refugees in the camp are surviving. Economically, the Thai government get all this money from the UN and provide these rotten fish and vegetables and unsanitary water. I just started my menstrual, I am 17 or 18 already because no food. We are just a refugee surviving and waiting to go to other country. And then there's uncertainty that a lot of people don't have a sponsor. I think it's very difficult. Another privilege is that have a sponsor, that have a family supplying money at the same time.
When you got to the Thai camps, did you feel like the worst was over, or was it still uncertainty?
I don't really know it is the end yet, but I never feel safe. Never know the next day where. Because from seeing other refugees, when they call you to interview one by one for immigration, when your name was posted in the wall that say, this date, this is US, this is Australia, this is France, something like that, Everybody saw their name, they celebrated and they excited. After that, they see INS, and after that, they fell and interview. Some of them either suicide or, disappointed. So it's uncertainty. You never know.
Jeniffer recounts how family members were accepted by different countries for resettlement. Some to Australia, some to France, and then some to the US. She spent over a year in Cao Dong refugee camp.
It's terrible in the camp, and we all in there a year and a half or two, and then we had to split 3 countries. One to go Australia, one to go France. The people go Australia go first. My sister and my uncle went to France.
Part 7, Processing Center in the Philippines. In 1982, Jeniffer's family was selected for U.S. resettlement. Before departure, they spent months at the Philippine Refugee Processing Center in Morong, Bataan, in the Philippines. It served as one of the transit and processing centers for Southeast Asian refugees on their way to permanent resettlement abroad.
I was in the Philippines, I think it's less than a year. I don't know, 8 months or 7 months or 10 months, study the cultural orientation. And I feel like it is the safest last destination I be in Philippines. In the camp on an island in Morong, Bataan. It's very nice and beautiful camp. I remember I have a little good memory over there.
Jeniffer recalls volunteering to translate for one of the Filipino clinicians while in the camp. She felt a sense of pride being able to help, and she reflects on how this early volunteer experience mirrored her later role as a cultural navigator at Harborview Medical Center.
That's where I volunteered to do interpreting for one of the Filipino dentists.
And you were translating between English
to Cambodian. And at one point, he had a couple of us helping in a clinic. So I was Cambodian and my other friend is Khmer Rouge, speak Vietnamese. So at one time in the hospital, there's a Vietnamese woman who was seeing a doctor for gynecology because they went through the boat and a lot of the women got raped. And she was having painful and they need somebody helping, interpreting. So I was helping them and she interpreted from Vietnamese to Cambodian. I interpret from Cambodian to English for them.
Oh, wow.
So that is my first language skill that I will utilize it in helping other. I never forget it. And I was very proud of it. Yeah, I think about it and how I end up in this healthcare. How I'm doing this kind of job is my pet.
Part 8. Arrival in Salem, Oregon, United States.
So July 13, 1983, from Manila to Tokyo, from Tokyo to Seattle, from Seattle to Portland, Oregon, and Portland on a small plane to Salem, Oregon.
Why Salem, Oregon?
My uncle lived in Grants Pass. It's a small town and not much for a refugee to do. So we have a co-sponsor, his friend, live in Salem, Oregon. They came to pick us at the airport, take us to the apartment, get us settled down in the apartment next to a community. And mid-July is a fruit picking season, and it's the time to picking berry. So the next 2 days, my cousin and we end up on the blueberry field. So July 13th is a humid and dry, and then we had this Eskimo jacket that they gave her at the airport, and I'm like, okay, look like you from Alaska. And then I think a few days after we settled down in a little apartment with all of us and a little TV and a couple pot and pan and blanket and seat for the bed, And the next few days, we end up picking berry.
How was that?
I say, look, it's a paradise here in the blueberry field in the midsummer July, so far from the mountain in Khao Dang refugee camp. I'm like, it take me from one direction to the next direction of my destiny. This is amazing. And then in the blueberry field, a lot of the Cambodians are picking berry and talking. And it's just like, whoa, I end up in my own country again. Here we go, and eating right together under the tree with all this. It's like a picnic. And it's just like, oh, that's how it is. That's how America is. Yeah. So I came in July. September is the start of high school. I had to go to a newcomer ESL class for 3 months. So I was there with different refugees from different countries, Mexican, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, whatever. Then after that, next semester, I was put in some regular high school class and then some ESL class, science or chemistry or things like that.
So this was your first time being back in school for a while?
It is the first time back in school of formal education.
Part 9. Family and community work.
After high school, I graduated. I moved to Seattle. I met my husband. I get married November 1987, even before I start college. Yeah.
So you're already independent?
I'm already independent. My mother could not wait to marry me off. I barely speak English. And my husband, he came from Australia to meet his mother and his grandmother. And then he just graduated from high school. And then I had to become a U.S. citizen in order to sponsor him, to get him settled down. So that's how that thing happened. Yeah. And then from there, November 1987, we get married. And I think this November will be 37 years.
Jeniffer started to work with refugee groups in the Seattle area as an interpreter between English and Khmer. However, her role expanded to include social work with issues regarding domestic violence and child protective services.
I got the first full-time job, Refugee Women Alliance, because of my language skill, and I able to speak both languages. I was helping the ESL teacher with a group of women going to ESL class, but then also I have a title called Domestic Violence. I don't really like the job because I don't know much about domestic violence and CPS and the law. I started the job without formal training. Those my experience, first full-time job, social work. And at the end, I said, I maybe like this job. I maybe want to come back to a healthcare field.
Part 10, Harborview Medical Center and Community House Calls. Jeniffer eventually joined Harborview Medical Center's Community House Calls program, becoming one of its first cultural care mediators.
So I was interviewed by a community member. I interviewed by Dr. Jackson separately, and then with another Cambodian coordinator. The refugee clinic already there in 1985. I was there in 1994. I have a hard time. The first 5 years, honestly, during that time, I looking for a job. I was stressing out. I don't have a medical background. Working on the doctor is very intimidating. Not his height, not his physical, but his education and intellectual. And I don't have any medical background, and medical terminology is not I interpret on a daily basis. I barely just speaking fluently English. I just graduated from college. I had no background in the hospital. I want to be in the hospital. I want to become something, but I don't really know yet, But that's my entrance to Harborview Community House Call.
Jeniffer recounts the first patients she is working with who describe symptoms of depression and PTSD. These were terms and diagnoses with which she was not familiar. She also explains a lack of familiarity of patients in taking medications for chronic conditions.
I remember the first adult patient in refugee clinic. She's young, and then at that time it's the beginning of Prozac on depression. I'm like, I have no idea. People came interpreting a lot of physical symptoms, but it's seeing a lot of this PTSD because there's a new arrival on a new country living. You can see all the shooting and all the stuff. So I learned to understand that. And then they got prescribed a lot of Prozac. And then people say it's too drowsy. And then I do home visit, nobody take it, it's up there. And the symptom doesn't go away. And people take a medicine for ongoing. They take only when I have a headache, I can take it. That's it. We don't have preventive care. We don't have this ongoing chronic disease. You can see how mixed up this medication is. We went home and all their cabinet is filled out their home visit.
Oh, so they were prescribed all these medications, but not even taking them.
They take it as needed, blood pressure, cholesterol.
When you're seeing all these patients, could you relate to them? Could you understand where they're coming from?
At the beginning, I don't, because I'm still working on my memories too. And 5 years later, I do a home visit with a social worker, and I learn a lot from them. And they say I have stress. So I told my boss, and then I see a psychologist.
So when you saw that psychologist, at that time, were you understanding what the patients were going through?
Yes, because he's seeing the same patient I see, but he's a psychologist. The clinical people don't know.
So then you started to understand that the things that the community members that you saw that were suffering, you were going through the same thing.
Going through the same thing. And then I getting another secondary trauma from them because I revisit their story.
Did you think of quitting?
I did, but financially, I cannot quit. I need health insurance for my children, and my husband's job is unstable. Company layoff, up and down, This is the best job I can keep to have my medical coverages. I did sing a lot of quit. I went out to talk to many colleges, like people I know. I was so fortunate to have this outlet outside. They recommend me see a lot of counseling. That's why I see the psychologist at CRU. Yeah, and it was amazing, right? My family don't know about it. My children never heard about it. The people I work with in the college, I don't think Dr. Graham, Dr. Jackson have ever heard this entire story either. But they know I frustrated when I go to write to them after I went through the job.
Jeniffer shares an experience working with a Cambodian family as a caseworker cultural mediator at Harborview Medical Center. She discusses the emotional toll that the work carried, particularly because of the shared history of trauma with the patients she was caring for.
I recall one family meeting for a young boy in a motorcycle accident in a coma for a month. When they called me to do a family meeting with the surgeon and the father and the brother, I don't know the family because these are trauma. It's not coming from refugee clinic that I build a relationship with. In order to go in, normally I do the pre-visit so I can know what I expecting because it's already intimidating sit on a table with a bunch of neurosurgeon and this extremely medical language that I don't deal with. It's different, I can mediate, I can lead that, but I want to know what is the situation I'm getting to. Is it pulling the plug or explaining the condition or the status? And they told me to explaining the status because it looked like the family don't agree that he's going to die. I went in there, the first session, the first introduction is emotional already. The father, I think the surgeon was trying to tell them that they don't think he will survive, but they can keep and watch her request, but not too long. And the father told him that he have a dream that his son will come back. And then they start telling a story about coming across the border. The brother was speaking in English, but I interpret for the father. And he said, my father brought all of us through refugee camp and we make it here. So I think my brother will make it. That is heartbreaking. And then later on, after I interpret, they were in the same refugee camp I am. At the same time, I'm trying to juggle all these things and accommodate and mediate, facilitate this meeting. It's painful. And he's about almost the same age as my son. That is very scary. Things could happen. And it's beyond my ability. And the mother wasn't there because they think that their mother cannot take it. She has so much PTSD already. They don't think she can take it. So they explain to the surgeon and they say they think their brother will make it. Those are heartbreaking. I think this kind of things that I work, people don't understand it. And that's why I go to community education to give them a heads up. Things like this could happen and you could be prepared for it. And everybody saw my face and say, your job is easy, walking up and down. I explain to them, you never know what in my head and what I'm sitting with. I go down, I go learn, I go read the book, I go read the medical, in my language, and then I trying to figure and I trying to understand how I can explain it accurately, consistently, and, how my patient would understand in lay language, in normal language, because they come from different region, they speak different dialect, they live in different villages. But our doctor in here, did they know it? They don't, right? And that's how I feel this is important to say. So that's how the job helped me and then help my community and how I learning to process all these things. Thank you to all the colleagues, the peer support, and my friend. Yeah.
Part 11, Reflections and Legacy. For more than 30 years, Jeniffer has helped patients from the Cambodian community navigate language and culture, and has helped doctors at Harborview Medical Center provide more effective care. She also discusses being confronted with her own history of trauma as she worked with patients who survived the Cambodian genocide.
And that's what it is when working here 30 years with community house call and spend a lot of time with every patient that I could provide continuity. And then I saw their illness is triggered by their trauma too. And every time they have a surgery or cancer, something going on big in their life crisis, then the trauma comes. I did inform the provider of that too, That is, the PTSD doesn't go away. 30 years ago when I started here, I just brand new. I have no education background in social study or any science, but then learning to see those symptoms and those stories and be able to recognize why I triggered by this trauma, why I get moody, why I got frustrated, why I got agitated, why I got startled. And it did occur through my whole life, raising family. I never have a good mother, how I parent my child, how I raise my children, all of this stuff is all in the back of my head and how I do it. And then watching my patient doing it with their children at the same time. So now when I looking back, how my trauma is triggered from all of these things, I mean, when I was busy raising kids and doing all the things, I don't have time to go back there. But now, like, my children are grown up and I have some more time, and a lot of these memories starting to flooding everywhere. And I thought, well, either go back or not go back. I tried to forget at one point, but it won't go anywhere. Either put it in a book or in another place, or say it out and get it out of my system, So it's like, okay, it's maybe about time to do that. And people never know how I survive with all of this, even in my own family, I don't discuss this a lot with my husband either, because his journey with the Khmer Rouge, it was treated differently than I was treated, because every province in Cambodia depends on what region where you live.
From Phnom Penh to Seattle, Jeniffer Huong has carried her history into every act of care, turning personal loss into community healing.
I was raised like a Cambodian woman, and here I with a 2 boy, and I'm not knowing anything, and I never raised with a brother or a sibling. It's a lot. Looking back, I mean, how I'm holding myself with what I go through. I mean, raised without nurturing, and affection, motherhood. What is mother like, those kind of things. And, I don't really have a childhood. And here in the journey, where all these scary things that could happen to me, those are amazing. And when I look back, I have done so much already, that I never thought of. I think I do the best already. I have to give myself credit. I mean, looking back, I was grateful, I was blessed, I was thankful, and I learned through my job, my career, the people around me, the colleague, the team that I have in connection with. It's amazing. I mean, like they take a village to raise a people, and I still need that, and I still want that. Now I think I feel more confident that I was able to say what I want, what I know, how I know, to tell people how much I know.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeniffer.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for doing this.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Provider Pulse series on the EthnoMed podcast. Our deepest thanks to Jeniffer Huong for the courage and generosity it took to revisit her story. Hearing her journey helped us better understand the immense hardship and resilience of the Cambodian people, many of whom are our colleagues, patients, and friends. As one of the founding members of the Community House Calls program, Jeniffer used her own life experience to help Cambodian immigrants navigate the healthcare system with compassion and cultural insight. Her story reminds us that every immigrant patient carries a complex history, and that as providers, our care is strengthened when we take the time to understand the historical, cultural, and personal layers that shape each person's story. We look forward to joining you on our next episode of the EthnoMed podcast.